Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you're connecting from. My name is Pedro Lopez Ela. I'm the team principal of the EXO Builder, the startup initiative of OpenEXO. And I'm very excited to be here with you, especially because I'm sharing the microphone with, I'd say, some of my BFFs. We've been working together for quite some time. And actually, I'm a big fan of them. They're some of the brightest and more resilient entrepreneurs I've ever met. So I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to be introducing each and every one of them because I want them to share stories about evidence based entrepreneurship and lean innovation, which is the topic that we're going to address today. It's a very important topic for us. It's been a system that has been created, curated, updated for more than 20 years. And Gabriel is going to talk a lot more about that. But the essence of the talk of today is to share the stories of what we've done so far in places like Americas, Europe, Asia, and very excited to be here. So, no further ado, I would like for each and every one of them to introduce themselves. They have a very impressive, long resume. So, I'm going to ask them to be as brief as possible. They're very humble people, by the way, but their experience is very interesting. So, Gabriela, would you like to share a bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Pedro, for that. Thanks for being here with you. I'm sure we will have a very good conversation. So welcome. And I have worked in the entrepreneurship ecosystem for 10 years and supporting the startups, entrepreneurs, mentors too, and in project management areas. So I'm happy, very happy to work with you now in ExoBuilder and ecosystem in general. So thanks.
Thank you, Gabi. Mike Sainz, would you like to introduce yourself, please, to the audience?
Yes, hello all. Thank you for having me here. Mike Sainz from Mexico. I'm an entrepreneur in the mining industry, 18 years of experience and 7 years in the gastronomy industry. I have been implementing systems, processes, and methodologies since a while, and I'm the chief alchemist of the EXO Builder. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And last but not least, Sebastian, love to share the mic with you.
Thank you, Pedro. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastian Molina. I'm the Chief Rainmaker at EXO Builder. My role is to connect the entrepreneurs that we work with investors on a global scale, as well as making sure that they're investment ready after they work with us. I'm really excited to be here. My experience is on the venture capital industry, so happy to share any of the learnings and discuss a little bit about the EBELI book today.
Thank you, Sebastian. So, Gabi, I'd love for the people that are watching, that are here with us, to hear a bit about the story of how we came up with EBELI, what has happened in the last year, who's behind it, what have they done about it. Can you share a bit, please?
Yeah, I will try to explain in a few words, but it's impossible. But this started in the 90s with a group of 40 people from all over the world. They were friends for many years and have created companies and collaborated with each other in their projects, and were willing to share everything they knew and support each other. So, and then they realized that the best way to help people was to help them stop thinking about that they would eat the next day and solve that, so that they could have time to start thinking about other important things. So this group went through many stages. For example, they created an online school a long time ago when the internet was by telephone and we used modems. But they noticed that after a year of support, when they go out, there wasn't an environment that supported them and that what they had learned. So when this stage ended, we created support tools for them. They opened offices in Palo Alto, Tokyo, Vancouver, and ended up having 5 offices in Latin America. Since we were in the US, we started to create links
Wow.
with the American entrepreneurship ecosystem, like the National Science Foundation, Small Business Administration, and the Department of States, and too many others. And so the model as it's today started to exist from the idea of sharing methodologies, books, and knowledge. Little by little, a huge shared folder came into existence that had incredible amounts of information. So EBELI is a methodology that was created more than 10 years ago to help translate academic research to the market and thus provide solutions to real and relevant problems. The point is that we combine the best of methodologies and best practices of innovation and entrepreneurship, and that we hope will help everyone to identify product or service opportunities that can solve relevant problems, but at the same time they can increase the chances of success of a new venture. So I think EBELI talks about the power of community and how it makes incredible things. I think too that EBELI is like, it's like having a big piece of history about the talent that many people have had to go through to push ideas, through to create a business. We know it's a difficult journey, and we believe we can learn from the last and a lot of experience. So EBELI has been created by taking more than 200 methodologies, and all of this work, it's because we wanted to give more tools and empower entrepreneurs from any corner of the world. Sorry, Ben, I know this is only the beginning of the conversation, and we need a lot of hours to tell the audience everything. But this work was born from a great group, by the way, led by Pedro. And we'll talk about this, but I think it's a great news that we have something like EBELI in the handbook version and use it.
Thank you. And I don't want to spoil all the other conversations about the future of what we are all working on. And by the way, very kind words of you. I've just been probably one of the visible faces of the movement, but this has been pushed by more than 7,000 people, and we've trained more than 100. So I'm just happy to be here and be that kind of visible face. But Mike, I would love for you to share the specifics about the system. How does it work? Why is it better? I mean, if I'm right now an entrepreneur and I want to jump into Amazon and purchase an entrepreneurship book, it's going to be very confusing. There's going to be so much literature there. If I base my research on Google ads or that kind of stuff, there are like so many false prophets just teaching stuff that everybody has tried and failed. Why is EBELI different? Why is it better?
Thanks, Pedro. It's a great question. First of all, I think EBELI is made of 7 big steps that we need to follow. I don't know if we can share the screen there to see the steps. Yeah. So, but even though we have those steps here in the process, it's like a roadmap, and like every other map, you can start in the different stages depending on where you are at. But the basic of the EBELI model is about the entrepreneur and the team. So it's very important that in the process we understand the leadership, but also the skills of each of the members of the team that allow us to bring to the next stage, which is my project. And my project is around the problems we are solving, if we are talking about the SDGs, or what kind of opportunities we are trying to take into the market, but obviously link it to a value proposition. And this also, it's being compared with what is happening around the environment. And we have this in the EBELI model, we have this systemic canvas, which is to understand the different areas of the environment, which technological trends, economical trends, competition, but also the internal, like weakness and strengths. And they have different areas, so you can connect what you are trying to achieve, like a entrepreneur or startup, into the market. So then you have to analyze what is your business model. And the business model, we have been working with different canvases. One of them is the one of the traditional business model canvas, but we have understanding that each of the business could be different and maybe have different impacts around. So we have different kind of canvases. The first one is like the basic, so we can state the difference between the basic or the information we need to understand for building a better or bigger model. We also have the impact canvas. We have the impact canvas that is related to the organizations that are impacting and supporting the SDGs or trying to create a better world. But also we have the public canvas that is also related to the organizations that are working with governments. So,
but I guess kind of
yeah.
exactly to my point, and I think this is very relevant to share. There are too many canvas in EBELI, aren't there? Or why is it better?
Well, the difference is that you don't have to use all the canvases. It's depending on your startup, your project. What is the canvas? It's exactly to do, and the idea of the canvas is just to create those hypotheses and understanding how you can link your value propositions with your customer segments or the beneficiaries you have or the government relationship you need to add. So it's not about having all these canvases and you using all these canvases during your process, but also understanding which is better suitable for you, your project. And once we understand what is our business model or impact model that we are trying to achieve, then we have to start looking into how do I boost our project. And that means that we are as EXO builder, we are also aligned with the community of OpenEXO, and we have implemented in the EBELI model the attributes of an exponential organizations, which is the exponential canvas, and it has to be with having a big purpose and also the attributes that support to scaling up an organization or expanding our organization. Then we are going or moving now to crystallize our project, and what we take in account in EBELI as a different and other books of entrepreneurship is that we are adding all these elements about MVPs, about intellectual properties, about how you can sales and marketing better your startup or your project or your product or your service, how you can manufacture your product, how you can incorporate your business, talking about a little bit about legal and taxes. So I think one of the biggest advantage of the EBELI model is not about only just working in the team as entrepreneur or only as a business model, but also trying to understand what will be the challenges that a startup will be facing once they start getting tracked in the market. And once you arrive to this place, then we need to scale up. And for that, we have this also another canvas that it's called the scale up canvas, but it's about strategic planning. So now we are looking into the future, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, the next year, and each of the quarters, and understanding what are the key metrics, what are the objectives that we need to achieve, what are the OKRs that we need to have in our startup in order to keep growing. So to closing up this explanation, Pedro, it's about, as I say in the beginning, if you are just an entrepreneur with an idea, you can start in step 1 and then follow up all the process. But if you are a startup running and you have an idea of a business model and you have a value proposition, but you have not validated in the market, then we can get directly to the step 4 and start trying and doing the hypothesis and validating your business model. If not, we can come back, because at the end it's an iterative process to ensure that your startup will have success in the future. And that's a little bit, but I think one of the important part of the EBELI model that is not stated in this graph is, in this process, we have a teaching team, which is about instructors and Sherpas. And we have like mentor consultants coaching, but a Sherpine, what we call is Sherpine, accompaniment to each of entrepreneur or startup that empowers them and get accountability to ensure the process is being followed and executed correctly.
Thank you for that, Mike. And just quick parentheses, Mike was talking about OpenEXO, and we are a branch of OpenEXO. We are the startup and scale-up arm of OpenEXO, which means basically that we do venture building for exponential startups. And this is important because we're super proud of that. OpenEXO, for those of you who do not know what OpenEXO is, it is the largest community of innovation experts in the world. And at its heart, it has basically a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. So we're really proud of that because we have presence in 113 countries of people that are probably the brightest where they are at. And they're focused on innovation and technology. And that is crucial because it is, I would say, the foundation and the support system that we have for the entrepreneurs. And a big part of that community is part of the people that actually participated on the building, on the drafting, on the curating of the system, as Gabi was mentioning. And on that note, and once that we heard the process of Mike, as he was stating, I would probably add, and I think this is very relevant, it is a stacking process. And usually when people see the process in 7 stages and all those things that he said, and those many canvases, it's kind of overwhelming. But the thing is that it is a stacking process. And it basically, what that means is that you got to trust the process and just take one step at a time. And if you're able to do that, if you're able just to liberate yourself and do the task that you're supposed to do on that specific day, it's almost a certainty that you're going to get the results expected when you finish the process of doing the customer discovery with the tools that EBELI has. And with that, Gabi, I think it would be very, very interesting for people to hear the practical experience of EBELI as you lived it a few years ago in Chile. It was an interesting experience for those who do not know about this. Gabi was the person in charge of basically boosting the deep tech entrepreneurial ecosystem in Chile with the support of government officials from the small business or small enterprise agency, innovation agency, the Ministry of Education. And we're really excited to share that story. What can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, since we were here together, let me talk about that experience we had with the methodology a few years ago. We worked with a Catholic university in Chile to talent teachers and the entrepreneurs to take their solutions to the market. It sounds easy, but it's not. They had to go out to validate their ideas and solutions with possible clients. And it's an exercise that one doesn't do often. I think that the most important thing here was to put pressure and on have a real environment so that they could ask for help. So the biggest learning outcomes of the participants were that they realized that what they were working on sometimes wasn't useful for someone. It sounded like a good idea. It had a solid scientific basis and investigation to back it up. They were experts on their subject, but it didn't fit in the market. So if they had known this beforehand, if they had the skills and tools and people who could help them along the way, they would have invested less time, money, and effort on something. The objective is to create value for someone, not to write it on paper and forget about it. So we are very excited to be able to share this methodology along with other tools that we have included, and that people are able to use it, to have at hand when they need it, not only for businesses, but for any project that they have in mind and want to develop, so they can know what things they need to consider and how they can develop it better. So I'm sure you can share your experience, Pedro, in this too in a best way. Maybe.
Yeah, thank you for that. And by the way, it was a very interesting experience because the Chilean ecosystem, it turns out it's super active. Universidad Católica de Chile is the most important education institution in Latin America, by the way. So a lot of bright people there, a lot of intellectual property. And when we started training the instructors and the Sherpas that Mike is mentioning, it was very interesting that we basically had the largest cohort of instructors there. We trained at the first year. This is 2017, I think, or 2016. We trained 40 people, and from then on, it was an amazing experience. And related to that, and I guess this is one of the big questions. 99.3% of ideas fail. 75% of venture capital investments fail. And more than 30% of projects that are pushed by entrepreneurs do not work because they're not focused on the customer. The customer does not find it relevant. So how do you fit this, Sebastian, with the stuff that you're doing? Because investment readiness is something very relevant to the ecosystem, especially at early stage. We have, especially in business schools, we have like so many different formulas and ways to do valuations, and it's about just understanding financials and projections of sales and that kind of stuff. But when you're trying to kickstart a thing and you want to invest, or if you're an entrepreneur and you want someone investing in your project, how can you de-risk the investment, and what's the best way to understand how much this thing is worth?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Pedro. I mean, I think you're completely right. Being an entrepreneur is extremely hard. And I think the main problem, at least from my point of view, with building a company is that there's a very long entrepreneurship learning curve. And I think that explains why a lot of investors, for example, have a bias for repeat founders, right? You've been through the path, kind of have those learnings, and kind of, the word industry is, you'll be able to do better in the next one. And I think, having these tools such as EBELI, which are able to really codify these learnings and really put them all in a very simple and clear way for you as an entrepreneur to execute on, I think is incredibly valuable. I think for us, at least coming from the investor perspective, having entrepreneurs that know what to do, that are not kind of just trying as they go, but rather following some methodology, is incredibly useful. So for me, when I see entrepreneurs learning about EBELI, thinking about really studying their craft before just going ahead and creating a company, or really iterating as they go with a guide, I think that's incredibly valuable. And for me, it shows an entrepreneur that is willing to learn, that is willing to avoid these common mistakes. And I love this graph here. I've selected this graph from the EBELI book because I think it really encompasses what EBELI is about. It's not just a guide to making your startup and telling you to do X, Y, and Z, but rather it's giving you a holistic view of what it means to create a company and going from the very, very beginnings of creating a firm all the way to, being a startup, a scale up, and eventually a mature business. And I like that it kind of touches upon a few different things. And I'm not going to explain the whole graph. It's clear there's a lot going on here. But my main point is that it breaks down. It's not just about applying a methodology or reading something in a business school class and immediately putting it to work. You have to have the context of the legal requirements, what the expectations are from other players in the ecosystem, including investors, and that's incredibly valuable as a founder. Most of the teams that I speak to that don't know how to fundraise or unable to raise around comes from them not understanding what are the expectations on the other side of the table, on the other side of the table. And for me, just seeing this graph, seeing exactly, breaking down for entrepreneurs what investors are thinking at every single stage, from pre-seed all the way to your Series A, Series B, and beyond, I think that is very, very helpful and allows entrepreneurs to really benchmark themselves against what other investors are looking. And if I may conclude, and happy to answer any other questions around this, Pedro, I think one of the unique advantages we have as investors is that we see a lot of businesses. We can compare, your one model against everything else that's out there. And having a methodology like this, I think, allows you to really reap some of those insights and understand what are the expectations at each point in the life cycle of your business, as well as really understand what investors are thinking about when they question your startup, when you come to table, and who to talk at the right time. So in a way, I think having a methodology like this really accelerates your learning curve as an entrepreneur, because it allows you to understand and gather the learnings from all these other entrepreneurs that have walked the path that the Pedro and the rest of the team have worked with in the past, without having to go out and fail 100 different times, right? It's a great way to just have that serial entrepreneur knowledge codified and ready to use.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I guess in a way, it's also closely related to the mindset. Because one of the things that we've seen on all the systems and methodologies and meta methodologies, and I mean, all the typical jargon of people that are selling marketing, digital marketing, is that they have the best tools. But before, Mike, you were talking about the mindset of the people. So, and it actually, which I find really interesting, is the starting point of the system that you presented. And whenever I at least have been in processes related to incubation or acceleration, we talk about best managing macros in Excel spreadsheets and the storytelling part of the thing, and how to use PowerPoint and other platforms to present beautifully. But EBELI starts with the person, not with the PowerPoint and not with the tool. So can you tell us a bit about that? Because I mean, it's kind of odd to start from there, isn't it?
Yes, Pedro, and I think you get it very right. There is a quote from Jack Daly, which he developed a book called the Sales Playbook, that he says that 50% of the success of a salesman is about the mindset. No matter the tools, no matter the systems, no matter the process, if they don't have the correct mindset, it is very hard to succeed. So what we try to achieve with the EBELI, it's like Steven Kotler said about the peak performance. He said it's about motivation, which is what gets you in the game, but it's also the learning, that what is EBELI, it's about to continue to keep playing. And creativity, when you are using the methodology EBELI, you are working towards the process, understanding the customer, getting out of the building, creating MVPs, talking to Sherpas that will help you to understand. And that also creates a lot of creativity in the process, but it keeps you in the flow. That is also, Steven Kotler is about everything about flow. So I think one of the keys here is showing up as an entrepreneur, uh, uh, trusting the process, as you have been saying, because the process is proven for more than 20 years, and with more than 7,000 entrepreneurs that have been curating this process. And it's about purpose. And what I like to know about the purpose, it's not only embedded in the exponential organizations methodology, but it is also, or need to be embedded in the entrepreneur and in their team. And the purpose is passion. And there is I forgot the name of this guy that is also doing a lot of about moonshots. He said that as an entrepreneur, you don't need to have passion. You need to be obsessed with what you're doing, because that will give you, and that will give you the opportunity to really achieve what you want to do. And with the methodology, we have developed a training that can be um, uh, done self-paced, but also in different programs, so the startup programs that the studios handled. But this kind of training is based on neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity can be viewed as a general umbrella term that it's the ability to modify, to change, and adapt both structure function of the brain, but also the throughout of the life. So what we do in this kind of process is that, as you said in the past, is about stacking. Even though in what part of the project you arrive, then you have to stack the knowledge. So we take them step by step, following this process, stacking the knowledge, generating this creativity, keeping the motivation in the process, so we can have this peak performance of the entrepreneurs. And that's the way we work in different areas. We have different trainings that we're going to launch now officially in the OpenEXO platform, but also you can have the opportunity to have some of this training, or a preview of the training, if you get access to the book previously it launched. So I think, and closing the idea, Pedro, it's about the entrepreneurship, the team, the mindset, but it's about the process. It's like creating those small habits into the entrepreneur and the team, that every day they would show up to the next step and keep following the process until they achieve success in the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And just adding up a bit to what Mike was saying, and this is very relevant. There's an article coming in a couple of days in the Inside blog. That's the blog of OpenEXO. That if you guys are watching, you want to read it, because it talks about neuroplasticity and entrepreneurship. So one of the things that we've been doing for quite some time now is trying to understand this basic question of, are entrepreneurs born or not, or made, right? And the typical question is that they're usually born. If you want to be an exponential entrepreneur, you either are or you aren't. And one of the things that we've understood is that neuroplasticity changes everything. And I don't want to get too technical, but it basically means that if you're able to do something in a repeated way with certain intensity, what happens is that your neurons in your brain are going to start connecting differently. And that is going to be the thing that changes behavior. I'm pretty sure that who's watching right now has heard the phrase that you create habits basically by doing the same thing for between 20 to 30 days. And on that basis, we developed the program that Mike is talking about. So to Rosagida Vélez's question in the chat, I don't know if I pronounced that well. I'm sorry about that. But the question basically is what Mike was saying. There's going to be a book that is going to be released. We're going to talk a bit about it further in today's conversation. And there's a program called EBELI Basecamp that is not only entrepreneurship, it's not only EBELI, it's even neuroplasticity. So it's going to get really interesting for those of you who are trying to find the answer if you were born or you could be made as an entrepreneur. Gabi, love to hear about the different people that have participated in EBELI process. I'm pretty sure that related to this thing of neuroplasticity and who can really become an entrepreneur. The typical question of the people that think that they themselves are not creative or are not innovative or are not entrepreneurs. So what would you say to those people? Have you guys tested EBELI as a system in different scenarios, in different geographies, different industries, or even different profiles?
Yeah, of course. Let me say that I couldn't agree more with the importance of the mindset that Mike mentioned it. But about your question, EBELI is an asset for anyone who has projects in mind and wants them to become really from a simple idea in their hand, and for the people and institutions that have already started down that path and want to take it a step further. So I will give them tools to answer your teaching, logistical, administrative question, and understand the EBELI methodology and apply it to your own project. So it gives entrepreneurs a basis of the series of tools and steps and guidance and to push they need to develop their ideas into startups, and it gives startups where they need to get traction in the market. It also gives consultants, coaches and mentors the knowledge and skills to help entrepreneurs to succeed in their ventures. So it also gives anyone who wants to validate a business model the tools to do so.
Thank you, Gabi. And I would like to share with you guys that are watching the presentation right now a bit about the book, the book that we are presenting right now to people who are watching. And we're really proud to say that this was announced a week ago. It's in pre-order right now on Amazon, and it is going to be published formally on November 28th. It's the system itself. It's the first time it's been published. It's 20 years of more than 7,000 people working and training and testing the methodology. It's 10 years of more than 50 venture building programs, which again, we find very interesting because it's never been done in such a massive way. And it is an effort, a collaborative effort of a lot of people that basically are trying to pave the way for those that come after. These are some of the people that are involved in the process, people that you probably know. You surely read their books. Bob, who has been a fantastic mentor for the EBELI movement and part of the EXO Builder, we're so proud to have him as part of the team and being so generous to all the entrepreneurs that have followed his steps. Salim, not only the executive director of Singularity University and an entrepreneur that sold his business to Google, and the founder of OpenEXO and member of the board of X Prize and so on and so forth, but also the guy that basically changed the way in which we build companies with his book Exponential Organizations. And then finally, Roberto Alvarez, one of the a Brazilian, one of the leaders of innovation, not only in Latin America, but executive director to the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils in DC, in Washington, DC, and probably one of the brightest people I've ever met, with an amazing grit and capacity to think about the future. And these are the guys that are basically pushing for this movement that has trained more than 100,000 people. So I'm very proud to share this with you. This is a game changer to people that are confused of where to start. If you are thinking about corporate innovation or open innovation, EBELI has been implemented in some of the largest companies in the world related to pharma, to e-commerce, to transportation. It has been used by business schools and universities. It has been used by business associations. It has been used by artisans. I mean, it's so flexible. And on that note, and I'd love to hear Miguel about the training that is the basis of the system and the starting point of building a venture. That EBELI Basecamp, can you share a bit more about that? We received a few comments and questions from the public, and I do think it would be interesting.
Yes, Pedro. Yeah, well, as I was saying about the process of what we did in the Basecamp certification is a training about the methodology in all the areas or the 7 big steps that we talk about it, but getting deeper in the different themes about it, the team, understanding the skills. But this process is every day. You have to show up to the training for 5 to 20 minutes a day just to see the videos, but it's also a workbook that will help you and support in the process of doing the homework each day. That, as we discussed before, it's about creating the habit, creating the stacking of the process, but also creating the neuroplasticity we are aiming to do with entrepreneurs. This is going to be launched in the next few weeks. It will be part of the OpenEXO certifications, but it will be a perk in the first days of the pre-sale of the launch book. So everyone who is in the call, they're going to receive an email with all the complete information about the launching of the book and also the certification program, but also the next step that it is to be handled. And just to rounding the conversation, Pedro, evidence-based entrepreneurship and lean innovation is about walking the talk. As we have talk about it in this conversation, it's we all here are entrepreneurs, and also the people that are supporting the entrepreneurs in the process, the Sherpas, are entrepreneurs. They know the methodology, but also they have been succeed or failed during this process. So they have this empathic process with the entrepreneurs. They understand what they do. They do not tell them what is the way they need to walk, but they showing the path to the process. And that's the same with the structures. Are seasoned entrepreneurs that they know the methodology and they have can leverage the knowledge for those entrepreneurs to understand how they can walk the path. And as Bob Dorf said, it is just about not in the launch of the event you were saying, it's an obligation for us as an entrepreneur to go back and give back to the new entrepreneurship. So it's like trying to close the gap between what the book is, what the training is, but also what we are trying to achieve to impact those 10 millions of entrepreneurs as the EXO builder.
And related to that, because that is a massive number, I guess for me the question, Sebastian, has to do with the why are instructors and Sherpas relevant to the process? Mike mentioned the difference. Basically, instructors manage cohorts and Sherpas are kind of like entrepreneur in residence of the project. But why is that important? If I'm an entrepreneur, why am I interested in that? If I have an incubator, why would I be interested maybe in connecting with the network? If I am a venture capitalist, why do I want the support for my entrepreneurs with these guys? I mean, there's already so much offer in the market, so many people that are advisors and consultants, and why would I just go to EBELI and talk to an instructor or a Sherpa?
Awesome, Pedro. I think that's a great question. And I think you're completely right. There's tons of resources out there. There's tons of people that are excited about the entrepreneurial ecosystem and want to join and be a part of it. I think having a set of structures and a set of Sherpas or experienced entrepreneurs that are all aligned with the same methodology allows you to really reduce that cognitive dissonance and focus more on what's important, which is execution, right? So there's a lot of methodologies. I think EBELI has done a fantastic work on codifying them, but it's not always as easy as just reading a book and translating it to the real world. I think there's a lot of nuance, a lot of really specific learning points, which is very important to have a guided experience there. And I think what's really nice about this is that since this is really a global a global methodology, one that has relied not only on experiences in a specific country or a specific industry vertical. I think having access to this more modular and widespread network of guides is also very, very critical. So this allows you to grab the right talent at the right time and making sure you're getting the correct advice and kind of being able to follow on this methodology.
Thank you, Sebastian. And probably the final question that we're getting from the audience, and we have time for that because we're about to say goodbye. Gabi, there's this theory from the EXO Builder that it is based on the inefficiencies of the global entrepreneurial ecosystem. A lot of people that are on the call probably have seen that it's very difficult to build a global startup, and it's very difficult in some places to build a startup because there's no ecosystem. So if I'm an entrepreneur that has an amazing potential but has no IP or has no support infrastructure or has no leverage for raising money or that kind of stuff, that's going to be complicated. But if I am an inventor and have an amazing patent in another country and I have no access to capital and I am not an entrepreneur and I don't want to be an entrepreneur, also that's going to take me nowhere. So these inefficiencies that the EXO Builder talks about, supported on the EBELI system, how does that work? Why is it important for people that are so jazzed up about thinking about global startups and the unicorns and those kinds of things? Why is it relevant?
Yeah, thanks for that question. The administration of the EBELI, of course, is an effort to collaborate between EXO Builder and the studio which work together in the implementation of courses. You can participate as a studio which work with EBELI to support regional educational issues, infrastructure, and research on innovation. I love this, and I think it's important to mention maybe again. But work with each other, make a difference to build, use and maintain an ecosystem of innovation. With EBELI, we provide the studios with an infrastructure and support to back the projects. That contains training programs and selection of instructors and Sherpas that accompany the projects, platform activities, and the biggest asset, which is that it connects a community of people and institutional leaders and experts in those areas. So you can opt into programs made to measure depending of the stage of a startup and be part of the structured progress and experiment it yourself. It doesn't matter in which area you work. I'm sure it will be something helpful to you and the entrepreneurs that you support.
Thank you for that. And for those watching, I think I want to share this with you. This is a very special community. We're about, probably in the next couple of weeks, to share very important news about where OpenEXO and EXO Builder are moving. And just to share with you, we are, I guess, and I love this quote about Steve Jobs that talks a lot about the misfits, and I guess in the end we're kind of that kind of people. We're geeks in our hearts and we're very hippies in our brains, and that's the reason why all the time we're thinking about ways in which we can make equity a standard, a status quo. We want everyone to be sharing the value that they share outside and to society. And that's why this is a collaborative effort. And we, the four of us, are really lucky to be the faces today in this conversation. But again, there are thousands of people that are behind this effort. And this is not bragging, but I'm really proud to say we're just standing on the shoulders of giants. And if you want to get involved, if you want to be part of this movement that is going to transform the way that startups are built, just reach out. There's a system, there's a platform, there's a community, there's an ecosystem. And if you want to be part of this amazing community that is going to improve the way in which we create startups, just reach out. We would be more than happy to have you. With this, I'm just going to give a few final comments for everyone. We're out of time. We just have 5 minutes to go. So any final comments from anyone? Would you like to start, Mike?
Yes, just final comments about we are trying to impact 10 million of entrepreneurs, as we say, that's our MTP. And we have also this area that we have not talked about, Pedro, but it's just a small commercial that I'm going to do, which is the Trailblazers, which are the people that help us to take our message, not only as entrepreneurs, but also as the community builders. So I just want to mention that we have the Trailblazers, and if you want to impact 10 million entrepreneurs with the EXO Builder, reach out to with us, and we can and we need your support. So it's just about that. My closing thoughts will be like, it's about evidence, it's about a mindset, it's about the process. And if you trust in the process and have the correct mindset, then you can achieve success.
Thank you, Mike. What do you want to share, Sebastian?
I think this is a very exciting moment for everyone involved in the EXO Builder community, and I think EBELI is just the start. I personally, I'm super excited about what the community is going to build and the amount of entrepreneurs we'll be able to help. And I think ultimately, if you share this ethos of really trying to innovate for a better future, to really disrupt the existing markets, and really just help entrepreneurs with their great ideas that can truly change the world, then I think it's a perfect moment to join us. I think having this global effort to really build exponential companies and support exponential entrepreneurs is gaining a lot of momentum, and I think we're coming in at the right time with the right tools and the right people.
And by the way, this comment coming from the guy that predicted the extinction of the incubation ecosystem in 10 years. So thank you for that, and thank you for pushing for that. Gabi, any final comments?
Yeah, no, thanks for this conversation. I hope it happens again. And as always, happy to be with you. Thanks for those who are connected, and welcome to our community. And thanks to those who are already part of it and help us to push EXO Builder.
Thank you, Gabi. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Pedro Lopez-Ela. I am a proud friend of Gabriela, Sebastian, Mike, and the team principal of EXO Builder. It was a blast for me. I hope you had fun as well. Thank you, guys. Bye.